What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cohn on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Grant Cohn. Grant, you are looking suave today. You got the suit jacket on. You got the haircut. I haven't even shaved my face.
Well, I'm on the Gold Standard Podcast. I can't be looking like a schmuck on the Gold Standard Podcast. I got to bring my A game because you always do, even if you haven't shaved your face, which is a beautiful, handsome face.
Only I could look like a schmuck on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Okay, few things we want to do today. The Dane Brugler draft guide came out in The Athletic, which I love. I love combing through it. I don't hide the fact that I don't watch college football all year long, so this is like one of the things I do to help get ready for the draft. So the first thing I do is I go through and look at all the guys that I've seen most commonly mocked to the 49ers. I want to see what does Dane say about them, good, bad, and ugly. So that's what I've spent the morning doing. I'm going to go through and read you, Grant, and we didn't rehearse this ahead of time. So we're going to read you some comments on some guys the 49ers might draft, and you're going to tell me if it is a red flag or a green flag. That's going to be the focus of the show.
I love this. This is going to be a fun game.
Yes, I think we're going to have some fun. I think it's going to spark some discussion. We're going to talk about Josh Allen's new contract and how it relates to Nick Bosa, so we'll get to that. It's the 49ers local pro day today, where there is a legacy player that will be there that nobody has talked about, which I find kind of interesting. So we can talk about that. And yeah, I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I also have a little surprise for you at the end of red flag, green flag. So we'll get to that. Let's start with this comment. Clickbait Motorsports says, look at these two nerds.
What's up, Clickbait Motorsports?
Accurate, at least for me. I'm a proud nerd, so we'll get to that.
Me too.
Okay. First up, from the beast, Amarius Mims, the tackle from Georgia, 6'7", 340. The first four things about Amarius Mims in this draft report are about his physical stature. Who does that remind you of, Grant Cohn?
Who does that remind me of?
Who's the one guy on the 49ers? Who's the one guy on the 49ers, pretty recent draft pick, where everything you heard about him was, oh my God, this is a huge freaking
He's big.
Guy.
He's so big. Javon Kinlaw. That was the number one thing about him. He's so big. It's incredible how big he is. Yes, that was Javon. So I guess, does Amarius Mims have a knee injury that was flagged?
Ankle. He's had some ankle issues. Okay. He had that tightrope surgery that Tua had.
Ooh.
Right?
A little scary. I have a prediction. The 49ers are not going to draft Amarius Mims.
Oh, I hope you're right. That makes me feel better.
They will. They have very specific physical profiles for each position, and I don't think he fits it. Was he 340 pounds? How many 340-pound offensive linemen do the Niners have?
I would say none.
None.
It does literally say in the draft report for him that he carries 300 pounds better than anybody this coach has ever seen.
Sure. And I'm not saying he would be he might be an excellent player. I'm just willing to go out on a limb right now and say the Niners won't take him. But they didn't take Tristan Wirfs. It doesn't mean that they know what they're doing. They're not going to take him.
I'm okay with that. He only has 8 college starts. That freaks me out. That's the Trey Lance of tackles, Grant.
That's fair. You like the traits, but you really haven't seen it much. He played at Georgia. You think he's played against good competition. He can run block, but I don't know. To me, Amarius Mims is the kind of player the Eagles would take. And they have a great offensive line, but they have a different system. I think it might work with them, but you don't play him right away. He would be a redshirt guy. And are the Niners really looking to redshirt their first-round pick this year? I don't know about that.
JM617 YouTube channel member says, who's got the better hair, Grant or Stats? I think I got to go you.
I think we both have great hair, which is one of the best parts about this show.
That's really how I choose who I do my co-hosting with. Steph Sanchez on Tuesdays has the best hair of anybody I've ever seen.
Hands down.
So, that's how we pick them here. That we're really the gold standard of hair on this network. That's how we roll. Okay. How about this from Tyler Guyton? Quote, Guyton is a work in progress in several areas and a steep learning curve. He should be expected for his rookie season.
Again, Tyler Guyton may end up being a very good offensive lineman. I don't think the Niners are going to take Tyler Guyton for the same reason I don't think they're going to take Amarius Mims. I think he might end up being a really high quality left tackle in a couple of years. Remember, the Niners had this situation in 2018. They could essentially choose between Mike McGlinchey and Colton. No, what was his name? Colton Miller. Colton Miller. And the book was, well, Colton Miller's a left tackle, but it's going to take him a few years to be good. Mike McGlinchey is a starting right tackle right now. They want McGlinchey. Colton Miller was objectively better after a couple of years. So I don't think they're going to take the left tackle prospect. They've never taken the left tackle prospect. That's what Tyler Guyton is. And to me, I think it's smart to be thinking along those lines because Trent Williams is 36, but yeah, I think the Niners look at what you just said and they're like, oh, red flag, red flag, red flag. No thanks, no thanks, no thanks.
Do you want the developmental guy or do you want the guy that's, is going to be good right now? And if you're the 49ers, you keep telling everybody that you're trying to win the Super Bowl, you're in the Super Bowl window, then I don't think it's smart to draft guys that need time to develop. Like, match up your timelines here. That was the biggest mistake they made with Trey Lance was he needs the most time to develop because he's the least experienced quarterback, and you want him to step in and start for a Super Bowl team and lead you to a Super Bowl. Like, that was never going to make any sense.
Fair enough. You make good points. I'm not fighting you. There's other offensive tackles the Niners could like and could go for.
Okay. Now we get to Roger Rosengarten.
Roger Rosengarten. Good name.
First thing that surprised me is Mel Kiper has him going to the 49ers in his mock draft in round 1.
Yeah.
Dane Brugler has Rosengarten as the 69th best player in the entire draft. So
maybe he goes to the Niners at pick in round 2, but it seems like if you see him as a starting right tackle, you want that fifth-year option. So maybe that's a reach, but if you think he's a starting right tackle and a good one, that's a first-round pick.
Couple of notes on him. Ran the fastest 40 time of any offensive lineman at the combine.
4.92. I know all about Roger Rosengarten. Know all about him.
He projects as an immediate swing tackle for an offense with the potential to be a dependable starter if he continues to develop. You know who that sounds a lot like, Grant?
Who?
The guy that got it right tackle right now, Colton McKivitz. That's a red flag to me. If his potential is to be a dependable starter, maybe. I don't want that guy with my first round pick. I don't.
Hold on. He's a lot more athletic than Colton McKivitz. Colton McKivitz never had first round, second round consideration. Let's look at, I got another comparison for Roger Rosengarten. Joe Staley. This guy ran a 4.9 at 308 pounds. Joe Staley ran a 4.7 at 306 pounds. Very athletic guys, a little bit lighter. Joe Staley started on the right side for the Niners, moved to the left. You know who's working with Roger Rosengarten this offseason?
Is it Joe?
Joe Staley. Absolutely. So there are some similarities there. Joe Staley was the 28th pick in the draft and went to a smaller school. He was stronger than Roger Rosengarten, but do you know who Roger Rosengarten's coach was in high school?
I do not know.
Ed McCaffrey.
Oh,
it's going to happen, man. It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Book it now.
He's been running outside zone since high school. Ed McCaffrey was his coach. Joe Staley's his mentor. Just put it in an envelope right now.
Yeah, I think.
He may be good. I don't know. That team was really good. He helped Michael Penix. They went to the national championship. He fits exactly what they look for in an offensive tackle. About 300 pounds, not too very mobile and quick on his feet. It's gonna be Rosengarten.
Rosengarten's pass protection won't win any beauty pageants, but his feet stay active and he trusts his handwork and eyes to execute his blocks.
Perfect for the Niners, right? Exactly. Their heart just went a flutter. Oh my God, he's a little shaky in pass protection. Swipe right.
God, yeah, you know what? I could see that now. I can see the pieces in The Athletic and on NBC Sports Bay Area all about Joe Staley and Ed McCaffrey.
All the interviews, right? Oh my God, can you tell us about Roger?
Oh, they are gonna just throw flowers after flowers. I will say this that I liked. He was only a right tackle in college, and you might be like, well, maybe that's not a good sign. But remember, they had a left-handed quarterback in Michael Penix. So he was the blindside protector for the quarterback. So maybe that's actually a good thing.
Still, though, an offensive tackle you're taking in round 1, you'd kind of hope could maybe move to left tackle eventually, like Staley did. And I'm not saying this guy can't. Maybe he can. He seems quite athletic, although what they say about his pass protection isn't promising. because Joe Staley was good in pass protection. He was also a great run blocker. Great player.
Wasn't the plan for McGlinchey originally to move to left tackle once Joe Staley retired?
He played a little left tackle at Notre Dame. They said it wasn't out of the possibility, and then they changed their tune like, oh, right tackle's just as important. No. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Kristen Wirfs moved right. He was the right tackle. He moved to left. I mean, the best ones do it.
You think Rosengarten's the pick? If you had to put a significant amount of money on somebody to be the first round pick, you think it's Roger Rosengarten?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when I saw Kuiper put it, I was like, this is silly. This is a huge reach. And then I was reading about it. Oh, Ed McCaffrey, outside zone. Joe Staley, fifth-year option. Because if you don't get him in round 1, then you have to start talking about the extension after year 3, which you don't want to do at a position that's that expensive. So you can justify maybe reaching on him there. Hopefully you're not passing on Hall of Fame players at other positions. The Niners are terrible at drafting in round 1. So they got to be careful here because they always draft for need and tend to reach.
That would be the justification too. Is like, well, we wanted him in round 2, but we figured we'll get the extra year.
Yeah,
and then there'll be more flowers. Like, oh, what a great move. That's so savvy.
That's so smart. 40 chess when really it's like you ended up the next 5 picks are like Pro Bowler, Pro Bowler, Pro Bowler.
Okay, let's go to defensive line now. Chop Robinson. Robinson needs to continue developing to prove he isn't a one-trick pony, but his first step, explosiveness, and aggressive hands give him the potential to be the most dynamic pass rusher in this class. He's ideally suited as a wide 9 defender who can be schemed across the front. Red flag, green flag, Chop Robinson.
Wide 9 defender or an outside or a 3-4 outside linebacker. Sounds like a rotational pass rusher. I mean, you're drafting for pass rush productivity, but if he's not a really good pass rusher, he gives you nothing. Kind of a scary pick. You better be right. You better be right about that pass rush protection.
Part, he needs
Where do you go to school? Penn State?
Chop Robinson, yeah, Penn State.
Okay, so he's living a little bit off of Micah Parsons' name? Turgos Matos went there too, and he didn't become a pass rusher. I don't know. Sounds like a rotational guy.
Read that first part, it made me think Drake Jackson, right? Yeah. Needs to continue to develop to prove he isn't a one-trick pony. Oh, yeah. No. We already have that guy.
Drake Jackson was a red flag to me because he didn't have that many sacks in college. And then you're drafting him and saying he's going to be a sack artist in the NFL. Why wasn't he one in the Pac-12? What was holding him back? The offensive tackles of Arizona State and Oregon State. I know there's some good ones, but seriously, I don't know.
Well, Chop Robinson doesn't have a ton of sacks in the NFL either, or in college either.
That's a red flag. That was a big red flag to me with Kinlaw. Again, you're taking someone to replace Buckner, who had double-digit sack seasons at Oregon and in the NFL, for Kinlaw, who had how many sacks in South Carolina? Not many, but he had potential.
That's interesting. What you said about the first round, about how they always draft for need in the first round, and that's
why
they do. That's actually really interesting to me.
Let's talk about that for a second. Like, this is their first round pick in a while. They have only done a good job with it twice.
Bosa
and Ayuk. Yeah, those were good picks. Other ones is like, whoa, man. McGlinchey, Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, Trey Lance. Some of the worst first round picks in franchise history.
By the way, Chop Robinson, 11.5 sacks in his entire college career.
That's scary to me. And he's supposed to be a pass rush specialist. Yikes. In round 1. No thanks. Good name.
Great name. Actually, his nickname apparently when he was a kid was Pork Chop. So that's where it came from.
See, if his name was like Sam, would he be getting first round consideration? Or are people like, I want that Chop guy on my defense?
I don't even know how to say his actual first name. It's Demeion. I don't know how to say that, but Chop sounds a lot better. It's definitely the sexier name. Okay, Malachi Corley needs to be more controlled in his breaks and tempo to consistently separate as a route runner, but he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He has the speed, physicality, and contact balance ideal for a slot role that uses motions, jet sweeps, and quick screens.
Sounds like a second round pick to me. Nice player, flanker, guy who can scheme open, and someone like Debo or Rashee Rice, but not someone that you would draft in round 1, put up against the best corners in the league, man-to-man, press coverage, and just say win. Didn't sound like that guy. So round 2.
To me, it was a red flag. Like,
it's a red flag.
I'm scared of that. Like, that's our biggest problem with Debo right now. I feel like the majority of, or a lot of 49er fans would be happy to trade Debo Samuel this offseason if it could have worked out financially. So it's like, why do we want to draft that guy again? Why don't we just draft receivers that can get open?
Well, Yak is nice too. That's where the big plays come from, especially when defenses are playing that too high shell coverage and stuff. But I think the problem with Debo is paying him $28 million a year, $24 million a year for that skill set, and he gets hurt. Like, that's just a lot. But if it were a guy on a rookie contract, it's a nice thing to have in your offense. The guy who can get 8 yards after the catch.
But I feel like Kyle can get anybody 8 yards after the catch. He gets these guys wide open half the time. They get 8 yards after the catch because nobody's around them.
I mean, I think we can agree that while Debo's overpaid, he is the best after the catch in the league. And if you do get him in the ball, if you can get him open and get the ball in his hands, like, you can get game-changing plays. Like, I'm not a Debo hater. I can say that. But again, how much are you paying for that? And where are you taking it in the draft? He was a second-round pick. That was fair, actually, in retrospect. It was right where he should have gotten taken. And then his extension was off of one aberration year. Straight up.
I actually think that Debo could be a lot more valuable this year as a kick returner with the new rules. I think he could be unbelievable because you're going to give him a running start and it's going to be just be like a running play. And all he's going to have to do is like read his blocks. And if he can break through a couple tackles, I don't know. I think he could be a really.
Yeah, I wonder about that because reading blocks isn't necessarily what he does. He's good at getting on the perimeter. What if it's McCaffrey?
That too. I think the Niners have a bunch of guys. McCaffrey. Yeah. I think
McCaffrey might be great at it. And I wonder, like, would you not want to do it? I mean, it's just doesn't seem like it's going to be a high impact collision. Yeah, or Jordan Mason. Yeah, Jordan Mason might be really good at it. I'm just saying. I wonder what the ideal skill set's going to be for it.
I think, especially early, you're going to see a bunch of crazy stuff because I don't know if special teams coaches know. Maybe we need different types of players to block on it than we have had in special teams in the past. They're going to be there's who's doing trick plays on this damn return. Who decides to actually put, like, some teams might be willing to put their starting wide receiver or running back there. Some teams are going to be scared of it. I think you're going to see all sorts of crazy stuff with the return, especially in the preseason this year, because it's completely uncharted territory.
Yeah, I would agree. I would totally agree.
We got a super chat here from Matt McCown. What Matt McCown says, Debo got paid to make a difference. The Super Bowl proved he is overpaid. He's never had a year close to what he did in 2021. No.
Yeah, and it's like everyone dogged Kyle for years. Yeah, you didn't go to Debo in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl in 2020. You didn't go to Debo in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game against the Rams. Well, he went to Debo over and over and over again in this game, and it didn't work out.
True.
No.
Maybe he was like, I know one thing. I'm not making the Debo mistake again. And then he made a different
Debo mistake. Yeah.
To his credit, he didn't make the same mistake again.
No, he didn't. He made the Ayuk mistake this time.
Yeah. One more red flag, green flag. How about this scouting report? Sharp and athletic with a productive resume, but he's undersized and unremarkable physical tools, forcing him to be perfect with accuracy and timing. He projects as a potential backup in the NFL.
Was that Brock Purdy 2.0?
That's Brock Purdy 1.0.
Right. Who are we talking about there?
That was Dane Brugler's scouting report on Brock Purdy.
Brock. Okay, there you go. So that's what the Niners are looking for. Read it again. The magic sauce.
Sharp and athletic with a productive resume, but he's undersized with unremarkable physical tools, forcing him to be perfect with his accuracy and timing. He projects as a potential NFL backup with a Colt McCoy-like ceiling.
Wow. Wow. Could Colt McCoy have been Brock Purdy if he had been on this team in this system when he came out? Is that who we're looking at? Wow.
I love to go back and look. That's one of the things I also do with the Beasts. I like to go back and see, like, because, look, nobody bats 1,000 with their draft preview stuff. It's impossible. There's too many players. It's all projection. You're right. But I like to go back and see, like, who was right, what holds up, what doesn't, especially with the 49ers guys, right? Like, okay, we've seen X player for a couple of years. Let's go back and look at the original scouting report. Is he the same? Is he different? And I just happened to go back and look at Brock Purdy's, and that's what it said.
Well, he nailed Brock Purdy. It's just the assessment was backup. But everything he said about him is absolutely true. And I think that's what's interesting. It's like, okay, like that combination of skills is good. I mean, he nailed it, but 2 years ago, they thought that's just not enough. Now it's absolutely what the Niners are looking for. Can they find that again?
I think they are going to draft somebody. They are going to pick a quarterback at some point, I think.
How many teams want a quarterback who's quote unquote not big or doesn't have any remarkable physical? Like, what was it again? I mean, who wants that quarterback?
It was unremarkable physical tools.
Unremarkable physical tools. Yeah, absolutely. Just like Brandon Allen.
Yeah.
Brandon.
It did say in the positives, quick setup, compact arm action, athletic pocket mover with footwork that is tied to his mind, slides to buy time. Like all that stuff is totally true about Brock.
He got it. So, I mean, I think with someone like Dane Brugler, maybe what's more important is just the breakdown of what they do well and what they don't do well, more than no one can really project what a guy's going to be. Who the hell said, hey, this Brock Purdy is going to have one of the greatest careers of careers of any NFL quarterback ever? Right. No one. So
I just like to go back and check it out.
Did Dane Brugler say that Rosengarten needs to play guard?
I don't believe he said anything about him switching to guard. If you give me a second, I can pull up the actual.
Brett Osborne says unremarkable doesn't mean bad. That's true. You're not looking for guys with like bad physical traits, but just C-. C-.
Let me just say this. Where is that comment?
Brett Osborne, 921. Just a few up.
Oh, I see. Unremarkable doesn't mean bad. Let me ask you this, Brett. If you slept with somebody and somebody asked them, hey, how was Brett in the sack? And they said he was unremarkable. Would you feel like
I think
it didn't mean
he's talking about the difference between a C- and an F.
Unremarkable is not good.
No, it's not good. But it's a C-. Is it a D+? It's a C-, D+ borderline grade. But F is different. You wouldn't say unremarkable for F. You would say, I have a story to tell you. Unremarkable is like, I don't even need to talk about it. It was, No, F, this is great. I got to tell you in detail the worst experience.
I don't see anything about guard in Rosengarten's scouting report.
Okay. Just a right tackle only who struggles. Yeah, it does sound like Colton Kivitz when you put it that way. Or McGlinchey.
Oof. Two guys I don't ever want to see again in a 49ers uniform.
In general, in life.
And I feel bad banging on Colton McKivitz because, like, he's Colton McKivitz. Like, he's doing the best he can. He should never be put in this position. That's my
He's a 5th round pick.
Right. He's having a remarkable career for a 5th round pick. But
can we talk about why the Niners need to trade up?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Why do they need to trade up?
Okay. So this is kind of interesting to me. It's a trend, I feel, in the NFL. The Niners, since Kyle Shanahan have been here, are really known for knocking out day 3, doing a great job in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7. And they have a lot of picks in day 3 this year. But the last couple of years, they really haven't hit on those picks. And I think there's a reason. I don't think it's even their fault. They got Brock Purdy in round 7. They got Jair Brown last year. But I think because of the NIL the last couple of years, it's changing how many underclassmen will declare for the draft. Whereas when we were kids or just a few years ago, any underclassmen that thought they were going to get drafted relatively high and make some money bolted because you could be in a position where you get hurt and make zero money in your NFL career. Now, it seems like the correct business financial decision is to stay in school for a lot of reasons. You can make money in college. Your rookie contract isn't necessarily going to pay you that much. And it just seems like maybe there's a smaller, less talented pool of day 3 draft eligible players than there were 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
It's definitely something to consider because I think you've seen the NIL impact throughout college. I think in the NCAA tournament, I know it's basketball, but I feel like you've seen it because before it was like, who's got the most talented freshman? And all those teams went. And now it's like, who's got the most experienced team? And you're starting to see people stay in college more because of they can get paid. They don't need to jump right away. And so the teams are different. It is changing the landscape of the sport. Obviously, it's going to have an effect in football. It's interesting. I wonder, like, where is the line between your NIL money in college and what your rookie contract would be? It's probably like if you're going to be a 5th round pick, you're like, screw it, I'll stay in college another year.
And it's like, why were the Niners drafts the last 2 years so bad? Like, this is a team that's, yeah, they've made some misses in round one, but generally they draft well. It's part of the reason why they have the best roster in football, or one of the best rosters in football. But like the last 2 years, I mean, Drake Jackson, Tydavis Price, Danny Gray, Spencer Burford, Samuel Womack, Nick Zakel, Kalia Davis, Tariq Castro Fields, Jalen Graham, Ronnie Bell, Braden Willis, D. Winters, Robert Beal, Darrell Luter, Cameron Latu. Like, what is that? Trade up. Trade up. Consolidate those picks. You're in win now mode. You talked about the 2 timelines. Don't cross your fingers that you're going to get lucky on the next 5th round pick, because I think there's a trend happening that there's just fewer draft eligible. You know how teams would talk like, how many players do you even have draft grades on this year? You know what I'm talking about? I think it's probably less and less. Less and less.
Well, and everybody said, I mean, if there's one thing the draft analysts agree on, I feel like, is that there are not 32 first round picks. Like, there are not 32 players graded out as first round picks. Yet after the draft, go look. Everybody's going to say, number 1, we got exactly the guy we wanted. And number 2, no one's going to admit, wow, this guy really wasn't a first round pick, even though we all admit ahead of time that there aren't 32 first round picks. But no one's going to admit that once the selections are actually made.
I'd love to ask John Lynch in a couple of days or whenever he does it next week, like, how many players in this draft do you really have draft grades on? Because DaCosta's with Baltimore, right?
Yep.
He talked about this. He said, because of COVID and partly because of COVID and the NIL, there's less players in the draft this year. There's less draftable players, less underclassmen. So this is something the Ravens have noticed. I'm not the only person to notice it. And I feel like the Niners probably need to react, because their whole business MO is cleaning up, finding gems late in the draft that other people don't find. Those days might be over.
And by the way, the Ravens are one of the best drafting teams in recent history. Like, they're really the first 2 draft picks the Ravens ever made the Hall of Fame. And they got them, I believe, in the first round of the same draft. Matt's back. He says the Niners have drafted at least an eventual All-Pro player once in every draft since 2017. Is that true? Let's see. 2017, Kittle. He was an All-Pro. Okay. 2018 was Warner. 2019 was Bosa and Debo. 2020, Ayuk was the second team All-Pro. All right, let's slow down.
We'll allow it. True.
2021.
I don't know that Purdy's going to be All-Pro. We'll see about that. You got to be the number 1 quarterback in the league to be All-Pro, or number 2.
No, don't they only pick 1 All-Pro, or is it 2 All-Pro? I
know the second team. So there's 2 quarterbacks that make that. That's tough.
Yeah, I don't care about second team All-Pro. The whole point of the All-Pro is supposed to pick the best player for that year at the position.
I agree.
That's a pretty good feather in the cap. I had not realized.
Okay, so hold on. I just want to say, when I'm talking about trading up, I'm not necessarily saying trade up in round 1, but you could trade up in round 2. You could trade up in round 3. I don't think you need to have, what do they have? 6 day 3 picks, 5 or 6. You don't need that. It'd be nice to get another day 3 pick.
Do they have
4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7? Like, consolidate those. Get into round 2 and 3 again.
That's fair.
That's what I would do.
You don't want them to trade up in round 1 though, because their round 1 picks historically have been so bad.
Yeah, they're pretty bad on day 2. Also, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because really day 3 is their money. That's their money maker.
But how long can you really count on that? I mean, like,
I think it's over. I think that well is run dry. Time to adjust.
That's like winning the lottery in a lot of ways. Like, most of those guys are not. I know we're kind of used to it because we just seem to pluck these people out of nowhere. But most of the time, you're not getting that kind of success out of the late rounds in the draft. And let's be honest, the Niners front office has experienced some change, right? Adam Peters is gone. Obviously, Rand Carthon is gone. There's been some turnover there. So can you really count on being able to continue to do things the way you've always done them?
No, absolutely not. And it seems like with Carthon and Peters gone, the people who are picking up the slack for personnel decisions have been coaches. Every time they sign someone, it's like, oh, well, he was connected to Staley, or there's some connection to a coach. So I wonder how much influence the new personnel people who have been promoted really have right now on the coaching staff, or the people who make the final decision.
And John Lynch has talked about sort of, I don't want to say that they're behind, but it's been a little more difficult because usually the front office does some scouting and then he's talked about how they loop in the coaches. Well, they couldn't loop in the coaches because they were preparing for the Super Bowl all the way into February. So they kind of got like a later start on that process than they normally get. Again, how much that matters, I have no idea. We'll see. But trading up, I think I would go for it because you don't have 10 spots on your roster and they have 10 picks. So you literally don't need all the picks that you have. So you might as well use them to move up.
All the more reason. If the Niners traded up aggressively in round 1, 10 spots, 15 spots, you think fans would be upset with that? I don't.
No, I don't either. Why
They'd
would
be
you
really, really excited.
Yeah, because presumably you're trading up for a guy you think is really damn good.
Right.
Matt says, by the way, credit Jesse and Sunil for that stat. Okay. Thank you, Jesse and Sunil.
I don't credit them for anything.
Okay, let's get to another thing I want to talk about, which is Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars got paid. Congratulations, Josh Allen. Nice
Deserves
contract. 5 years, $150 million, I believe. 88 million guaranteed, not at signing, up to $88 million guaranteed. It's a nice signing for the Jags. He's been a solid player, but I look at Nick Bosa's contract, 5 years, 170, 88 million fully guaranteed at signing. Bosa got up to $122.5 million guaranteed. Do you feel better or worse about the Nick Bosa contract now that Josh Sweat has signed with the Jags?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, yeah, sorry.
Get it right. I'm sorry. I'm a big Josh Allen fan because when those two were coming out of into the draft, I said the Niners should take Josh Allen. I was adamant about it. It's everywhere on the internet. I can't really live that one down. So I'm glad that he at least fulfilled his promise. It doesn't make the Bosa contract look good. It's like you would expect the next dominant edge rusher to get more than Nick Bosa, right? Because that's how usually it is. Someone resets the market, and then the next year the market gets reset again. But now it's almost looking like the Niners overbid a little bit for whatever reasons, because of the name or the consistent level of production. But they didn't get that this year. He was still very good, but he was not $34 million in the season good. So I wonder how they feel about that contract now.
Josh Allen for the Jags last year had 17.5 sacks. That is friggin'
That's
fantastic.
What you want. Bosa he never had a lot before then. He had like some seasons where he had 7.5.
He had 10.5 his rookie season. Then he got hurt, and then he came back and he had 7.5, 7, and then this year he exploded for 17.5. That's a damn good time to have 17.5 sacks, Josh Allen. That's good work by you.
Yeah, contract year, baby.
10.5 last year, 35 quarterback hits, 2 forced fumbles. I think
he was still good.
Yes, but not Bosa good. Like
no,
we expect
and his run defense wasn't great either, frankly.
Do you think that this was sort of, are we blaming this all with Bosa on the contract and the holdout and all that? Or do we think that this is really closer to the Nick Bosa we're going to see as opposed to the 18.5 sacks that he had in 2022?
It's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, I think you don't really know what a player is going to do when they get all the money they've ever wanted. Were you in this sport for the love of the game or to make the most money you could? Or maybe probably a little bit of both. But once you get all the money that that you could ever dream of, do you still have the same motor? Do you still have the same drive that you clearly had from 14 to 26? Clearly you had it. And I mean, look at Joey. There's some serious questions with Joey. All of a sudden injuries piled up and he's beefing with his coach. He doesn't really seem like the same player he was 3 years ago. And I'm not saying Bosa's going down the Joey Bosa path, but he didn't seem like the same player last year. So will he bounce back this year? We all expect him to. I expect him to. But he has to do it. We'll see.
It'll be interesting. I mean, he was honest when he came back. He was like, yeah, I'm my body's got to get right. Like he talked about how it affected him. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes out like a house of fire this year. If he says in the preseason, oh, I'm miles ahead of where I was last year. And to me, it just goes back to get the contract done sooner so you don't have to worry about this. Like, figure it out. We're going to go through this with Ayuk. It's going to be the same damn thing, right? Oh, well, the Niners don't do contracts till August. Oh, shut up. Everyone talking about the contract. They don't do it till August. This is how the Niners do business. There's no rule that says they can't sign Brandon Ayuk tomorrow. Like, get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with that. I got a theory about Nick Bosa and the Niners, like why the Niners run defense fell off a little bit last year. I think when you run defense is something players do on defense when they want to get paid. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not fun. It's not glamorous. It's exhausting. It's like shoveling coal or like coal mining. It's just a pain in the ass. But you do it when you want to be seen as that complete player who's coachable and gives 100% effort and deserves all the money. Then you get all the money. And I just feel like that's the first thing to go if you're going to slack a little bit. Like, you know what? I'm not giving the same effort against the run. Like, I need my sacks. I need my stats. And there's a lot of very highly paid players on the Niners defense. A lot of them. From Hargrave, there was Armstead, Bosa, Warner. There's just a ton. And I think usually the best run defenders are those middle-class football players. Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shaair, Samson Ebukam. It's sort of what they're paid to do, and they don't make a ton of money. And I think the Niners need more players like that. But they did get some this year, to their credit.
I also wonder, too, if it's like, do I really want to go all out against the run? And I'm not saying that Bosa dogged it, but I do think every pass rusher has to sort of make the calculation of like, hey, I got to have something left in the tank for third down to rush the passer, especially with the way the 49ers defense kind of got worked at points last year. I wonder if Bosa was like, hey, if it ain't me, it's going to be nobody because nobody else is getting home. So I got to make sure that I got a little in the tank for when we need a big pass rush.
I think so, but those are business decisions you make after you get paid.
Certainly helps.
Before you get paid, it's like, oh, man, my motor just never stops. It's incredible.
10.5 sacks, and we're looking at it as a down year. And it was a down year, honest to God. I mean,
for him, he set the bar high.
Second lowest since his rookie year. He had 9 as a rookie. He had 10.5 this year. I mean, God, the year before, 18.5 sacks, led the NFL. He was an absolute monster. And now it's going to be on Nick Sorensen and Brandon Staley to figure it out.
They're going to need to do a little bit more schematically with their pass rush. I think the days of just saying we have 4 good pass rushers, let them go. The best teams don't do that anymore. The best teams rush 4, but they can confuse you. They can overload your protections. They can get unblocked rushers. Niners need to join the party. And they know it. That's why they hired Brandon Staley. That's why the Seahawks hired Mike McDonald. Everyone's trying to get this.
Oh, God. There's so much going on with the defense that's driving me crazy because I don't like that they have Brandon Staley, but he's not the defensive coordinator. But obviously they really wanted Brandon Staley. It may all work out. I'm not saying that, but it just seems very like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too on the defense. And I don't know if it's time for a new scheme or what, but they clearly weren't happy with the defense last year. And
they were like, Brandon, you pick the players, you drop the scheme, the pressures and the coverages. You tell Nick Sorensen what to do, but stay in the corner and don't look at anyone and don't talk to the players. It's very strange.
And you're going to have no offensive responsibilities despite being an assistant head coach.
Yeah. So but you're not the defensive coordinator and you don't get to talk to players, but we sort of need you to be the architect of the entire defense. How's that going to work? So he's going to tell Nick Sorensen what to do. And then when Nick Sorensen does what he wants to do, how's that going to work? Hey, I wanted to do something different.
Well,
I'm the defensive coordinator.
This is what they're setting up because I feel like Staley's coming up with the game plan and Sorensen's calling the plays. And if it doesn't work, Sorensen's going to say, hey, this game plan sucks. And Staley's going to say,
you didn't call the plays where I told you to.
You didn't call the right plays.
So that's always good when you already set up a system where they can point the finger at each other. I love that.
And look, maybe it all works great. I'm not saying it can't work, but I'm saying if it doesn't work, I feel like it could get ugly pretty quickly.
If I were to, let's go back in time. The Niners hire Steve Wilks. We're having the same conversation. Boy, this is a little awkward. It could all go great. If I were to tell you, hey, Steve Wilks is going to have the 3rd ranked defense in the NFL, and it's going to be seen as a freaking disaster, and he's going to get fired days after the Super Bowl, you'd be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But that's what happened. So, bar's pretty high for these two.
Yeah, I would not be too eager to be the 49ers defensive coordinator. I talked to Mike Silver last week, and he was like, oh, yeah, they absolutely 100% scapegoated Steve Wilks. It's like, yeah, they treated him badly the whole year. Yeah. And
you set him up for failure.
And he wasn't that bad. That's
no, he wasn't.
Part. He really wasn't. Like
there were moments in specific play, even his worst moment of the season where he called that 0 blitz against Minnesota before halftime, the ball literally hit Charvarius Ward between the numbers.
He had it in his. He made a
He
similar
had it.
interception on the first
Yeah.
play of that game.
Yeah. So
If you were going to hire Steve Wilkes didn't even get an interview with anybody. If you were going to hire Steve Wilkes, you'd be like, okay, next candidate was third in the NFL in points allowed. Wow, that's pretty good. Let's see. Held Patrick Mahomes to 1 touchdown in regulation in the Super Bowl. That's pretty good.
Well, the Niners kind of screwed him over a little bit because they fired him so late. Most teams that had vacancies had filled him already.
But like, is he working with any team in any capacity?
I don't know.
Why isn't he
maybe
head coach
he got
somewhere?
a nice little contract from the 49ers and it was guaranteed, and he's taking the year to, like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy my money. Jed York's going to pay for me to fish in North Carolina for about 6 months, and then I'm going to regroup and I'll come back. I don't know.
If that's true, dude, I don't blame you. Nothing better than getting paid to do nothing.
I mean, he did get fired real late. That's what sucks about doing that to someone. It's way after the hiring cycles. You could bring someone on as a consultant or whatever, but at that point, a lot of people just take a year off. Because you're essentially taking a year off anyway, whatever job you quote unquote get.
Overseas Niners says not only did they scapegoat him, they humiliated him mid-season with the sideline change they forced on him. Yep.
I just don't understand why they did it. It's like, you thought this was a good idea, and then a month in you pivoted. Like, this is a terrible idea. It was your idea. We didn't tell you to do this.
All of it was bad. So the bar is set high for the defense, because if you're worse than third in the league in points allowed, fired.
Goodbye.
But I will say, for the most part, Kyle has been good at picking defensive coordinators. Robert Saleh was a good defensive coordinator. D'Amico Ryans was a great defensive coordinator. And Kyle
give him a do-over.
Yeah, like he
Give
said,
him a do-over.
Sorensen looked like he was close to ready. He thinks he's definitely ready now. Okay.
I think Sorensen's a better call than Staley. Like, Staley would be in the Steve Wilkes mold. Failed head coach, kind of disgraced, trying to pick up the pieces. That wasn't Saleh or D'Amico. Those were young guys no one had heard of who were on the ascent of their careers. That should be Sorensen. So let's see if Kyle can pick another one.
Brandon Staley is only 41. He's still pretty young too, but I have to put my faith in Kyle, which is a scary place to be sometimes with certain things, but this seems to be one of his better talents, a talent that I don't think he gets a lot of credit for, honestly, because it's hard to keep replacing coaches over and over again, and the Niners staff has been rated like crazy. So we'll see if it's any good. I don't have anything else for today, Grant. Is there anything else you wanted me to mention before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, you could give me a compliment.
I like your jacket that you're wearing, and your haircut looks very nice.
I think you do a great job hosting these shows. It's a pleasure. This is the one show a week where I'm consistently the guest, and I really enjoy it. You do a really good. We rarely agree on things, which I think makes the show even better. And I think you got a really good feel. You're just good at what you do, and I appreciate it. That's what I wanted to say. And you're handsome.
Have you been kidnapped? Is that your like signal to me that something is not right and that I should call the authorities?
Yeah, if I blink 3 times real quick, that's what.
There we go. All right, everybody, like and subscribe to both channels, please, and thank you. The Gold Standard YouTube channel and Grant Cohn's YouTube channel. We will be back next Wednesday, as we always are. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll talk soon.